Welcome to the Around the Pit podcast, presented by Camp Chef, with your hosts, Kyle Andrus and Kate Huskinson.
We have with us a very special guest today, Mr. Steve Devoe from Fiber Energy. Steve.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Glad
to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you.
You guys live in beautiful country.
Oh, man. We're very lucky.
We are very blessed.
Yes, you are.
It fits with our products, too. Like, we live and breathe the outdoors, and we sell stuff to make it even tastier.
Yeah.
So
That's
we're in
awesome.
the heart of the outdoors.
Yes,
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah, we can go 15 minutes up the canyon. You could be rock climbing, camping from our HQ. So we're very
blessed.
lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky here. But yeah, so we have a lot to talk about today. So first of all, we're gonna start off with a quick question. So Fiber Energy is a producer of a lot of wood materials, right? So you probably would know this answer to this question. So how much wood could a woodchuck actually chuck if he could chuck wood? Do you know that?
That's a question we have been asking ourselves since the beginning of time.
Yeah?
When Moses was a baby, that question was asked.
Because you have to know, when you have the two woodchucks on there,
That's exactly right.
you're going to go through the wood.
Yes. When you find out the answer to that, you let me know, because we've been chucking a lot of wood and we haven't got enough woodchuck chucks.
Well, let me tell you. So actually, there was someone. So the New York Times actually did an article about it, where they were trying to figure out how much woodchuck and a woodchuck could actually chuck if it could chuck wood. So they took out. So they're like it can dig a burrow in a day roughly, and they measured about all of the wood or all of the solid that they took out, and it was about 700 pounds per day.
In 1 day?
In 1 day.
Wow.
So they used that to kind of justify. So a woodchuck could chuck 700 pounds of wood.
That's crazy.
Well,
If
we
you
would
could do
need
that.
a lot of woodchucks to keep up with the amount of wood that we chuck.
Yeah. That's
How much do you guys do at Fiber Energy? And tell us a little bit about your history at the company and what the company does.
Well, Fiber Energy Products, we are a biomass fuel manufacturing company and development for that for the most part.
Awesome.
We do everything from pellets to chunks to chips to planks to cooking woods, firewood, in all different types of configurations. We have been doing it basically since 2001 at this facility. I've been in the business a little over 40 years.
Wow.
So we're not new to this business. We've been doing it a long time, and it's where our heart's at.
That's all. So how did you get into it in the first place? 40 years. What was your first job?
That's part of the history of the wood pellet.
Oh,
The
here we
history of
go.
the wood pellet was not to burn. The history
No.
of the wood pellet was to be able to landfill it at and have economical trucking getting it there to the landfill,
Really?
because there was so much sawdust waste around and there was nothing to do with it. So, and sawdust is very light.
Yeah.
So when you put it in a truck, it was very light, and it took a lot of trucks to get it to the landfill. So we found another purpose for that sawdust, and that's when the wood pellet was actually invented.
So you turn the sawdust into pellets to make it more dense, so you basically could save money on your trucking costs
That's
to get it to the
absolutely
landfill.
correct.
Because-
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
How much does it reduce the sawdust down to? It's like the volume of sawdust versus the volume of pellets. How much smaller can you get
You
it?
take sawdust at 15 pounds per cubic foot and condense it to 40 pounds per cubic foot.
Holy cow.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a densification process. That's all it is.
Wow. So was your first job then like running sawdust to the wood or to the landfill, or how did you get into the wood business in the first place?
There was a large shingle manufacturer that called us, asked us what we could do to the sawdust to densify it, to be able to get it off of their property. We came up with the idea of running it through one of our pellet mills that we manufactured feed through, because that's where we got started in this business, was making animal feeds. Same pellet mill that makes animals feed is the same pellet mill that makes wood pellets, just
Wow.
been modified, because wood is more abrasive and
Yeah.
denser, so therefore you can't run the production through it that you would in a soft
Mhm.
feed, and that's how we got started. We came up with a plan and seen a purpose and executed it.
So did Fiber Energy start the whole wood pellet thing?
It did not.
No.
No, I'd like to tell you it did, but no, heck no. It was long before Fiber Energy came around.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Wood pelleting, basically started back in the 80s,
Uh-huh.
in the mid 80s when it started. But the first wood pellet was actually made in the late 70s, and that's when we did that, about 78, 79. Like a big shingle manufacturer that used sawdust in their shingles, because that's part of the shingle mix is sawdust. Had all the excess sawdust to get rid of. But wood pellets for heating did not come up onto the stage till mid 80s, about 85, 86.
And so that was your company when you were there invented the wood pellet?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
We were just, we there's a lot of people out there that say, "Oh, I invented this, right?"
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that people do today that had been done 30 years ago. There's just a new twist on it.
Mm-hmm.
But wood pelleting's been around for a long time.
Gotcha.
Since early 70s or late 70s.
Gotcha. And then it obviously got its start being
As a heat source.
right. Being a stove, like for wood burning stoves to be a more efficient, cleaner option for that, right? And then from there, how do you know how it got from there, from the stoves to smoking meat and stuff? How what is that transition like?
Well, the story goes that the Traegers is the one that did that.
Wait, sorry, we're gonna have to bleep that one out. So.
Yes, you.
No.
but
Gotcha. Yeah.
They're the ones that transformed it into a pellet grill,
Okay.
and they are actually the first ones to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a natural transition from the pellet stoves over to the pellet grill.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley was one of the first companies to ever manufacture a pellet stove, and they perfected the burner on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that stove again came out in the mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like an old time stove that your grandparents or my grandparents would have had in their house. It was the size of it was 4 foot by 6 foot. It was huge. Had big hopper on it, and gravity fed the pellets into it, and then it just progressed from there. But as far as the grilling side of it, you got to chalk that up to Traeger. They're the ones that took that idea and made the innovation with the pellet grill and so forth. And
so what's the difference? Is there a difference between the current pellets that we use for cooking now and the pellets that you would use to heat your house or use in a pellet stove?
there's a very distinct difference
Yeah.
in pellets. Your heating pellets for your stoves are made out of either pine or ash or oak, red and white oak. Those are your primary ones. The grilling side of it, you would take that same oak or ash, or you don't use pine because you don't want to use the pine side. I'm sure you would not like it. Have you ever ate a hamburger that tasted like pine?
I don't think
no.
so.
If you want to try that, just go down to your local store, get you one of those little smell good things you put in your car, slap it between two pieces of bread, and you'll find out what it tastes like. It's awesome.
Tastes evergreen,
I'll
black
pass.
ice.
And we don't use that. We use red and white oak, which is the premier, sawdust to use.
Yeah.
Red and white. Your whiskey barrels are made from white oak.
Mm.
There's a reason for that, and that's the reason we use it. That's where you get, and then you take your different species, whether it's mesquite or apple or cherry or pecan, you blend that in with it in a certain percentage, and you just make magic.
So when I buy a bag of hickory pellets, that's not 100% hickory wood, right? Or is it?
Some are, some aren't. We have found that 100% hickory spoils the meat, because when you take, and let's go back to the very beginning. You remember what I told you that a pound of sawdust weighs or sawdust weighs 15 pounds per cubic foot.
Mm-hmm.
Pellets weigh 40 pounds per cubic foot. So we densified that, right?
Yeah.
When you take 40 pounds per cubic foot and you burn that, and you take and densify that by that many times, think about how much smoke you're putting into that protein.
Mm.
So because pellets are so dense, you essentially dilute it with a different wood that doesn't smoke as much or
That's
put off
correct.
that same. Okay.
Hickory smoke is very strong. Mesquite smoke is very strong. Those are your two primary cooking wood that smoke flavors that people are after.
Mm.
That's what they want. That's what we've grown up with, mesquite and hickory.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the two. That's your two primary blends of your. You've got. Let's just go down the list. You got hickory, that's number one. You got apple,
Mm-hmm.
that's number two. Mesquite's number three. Pecan's number four. Cherry's number five, and then oak.
Mm.
That's how it goes. And you can take all of those blended together and make any type of blend that you want. But you have to be careful of which ones you use, put them together, in how much that you use of each one of them, because each one of those has its own very distinct smoke profile.
Yeah.
And that smoke profile is going to be there transferred into your protein.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. And so, with the burning pellets for heating and stoves and stuff, I'm sure you're probably a lot less worried about like the amount of other things that could be in there that would potentially change, mostly the flavor, right? And so, how big of a difference in the creation of the pellets is there between the smoking the ones you use for smoking meats and the ones that you use for heating your home?
Well, the ones you heat them for home is, in our case, is 100% red and white oak.
Okay.
So there's no other blends of materials in it.
Okay.
That's it.
Oh, so because you're a lot less worried about the amount of
Flavor
that it's trying to give off. That's interesting. And so
That is correct.
cool.
The one of the things that you hear all the time, there's pellet companies out there that used to use artificial flavoring in their pellets. That's something that we don't do. We use 100% real wood. One of our MOs as a company, Fiber Energy Products, Papa's brand grilling products, if you will, and the products that we manufacture are all derived from old growth forests. Number one, we don't cut down any roundwood whatsoever that goes into our products. Zero.
That's awesome.
If we're buying apple or mesquite or cherry or pecan, any of those are old growth orchards that have been taken out because of maybe urban sprawl or farmer wants it out of there. We buy that wood from them. We bring it in. We process it, and then blend it in with other woods.
Well,
and
there you
we're
go.
one of the only companies in the country that do that.
Yeah, because I remember seeing something where everyone was talking about how pellets are like the fuel of the future, super green and all this. But there was so much deforestation happening, like in North Carolina and all this that was happening. But you guys aren't taking part of that at all.
None whatsoever.
That's
and
awesome.
what you're hearing about there is that's a fuel pellet that's going over to Europe. That's not a fuel pellet that's coming into the U.S. here. That is all fuel pellets that's going over to Europe.
The ones that are
abroad.
causing the deforestation and things like that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you're using a pellet that was made in Fiber Energy factory or mill, you can feel better about using that because not only are you eating delicious food cooked with it, but you're also helping out with clearing out old growth and circle of life, baby.
It's not
That is
it's not
100%
bloodwood.
Right.
Like blood diamonds, but it's good. It's good renewable.
It's
types.
green. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
green.
Yeah.
Well, 100% of the sawdust that we bring in to our facilities, and we have two facilities, one in Mountain View, Arkansas, and another in Seymour, Missouri. Those come from sawmills. So there's already a product that's being manufactured from that product that we're purchasing. So we're buying oak from somebody that may be making whiskey barrels, or it could be a sawmill that's making railroad ties, or a company that's making hardwood trim for their homes to sell to the home builders. So and all of that sawdust that they have, that's what their residual. I don't like to use the term waste, but it's a residual from their process. We bring it in and we buy it from them and we process it and we manufacture pellets out of it.
So one man's residual is another man's pellet.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
So it's a byproduct of other things being made that we found a really delicious use for.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I didn't know all of that.
And it's all natural. I mean, the lignin. So the lignin that is still in the wood. The lignin is what holds that pellet together.
So what? So
There's those
lignin is. Can you explain lignin a little bit more? Sorry.
Lignin is like people have heard the term pine tar, or tree sap.
Yeah.
Let's just call that lignin,
Okay.
for the lack of a better term.
Okay.
And people are understand it better. But it's a natural adhesive that's in the wood, and as the wood is heated up, as it goes through our process, it releases those starches and sugars and what have you that's in that lignin, and it takes that wood fiber, binds it together. We press it into a die that at a zero clearance, and comes out a nice round shape.
So I know I've seen this. We were both social media managers. Kyle's our social media manager now. I was on there. A lot of people had questions about pellets specifically, and And I don't think people fully understand that there's no glue, there's no adhesives, there's no anything in a wood pellet. It's all just compressed sawdust.
That's correct.
Wow.
It's all energy that makes it hold together. It's all compression.
Yeah.
Zero clearance, zero compression, or nothing but compression.
Nothing but compression.
A little bit about where the pellets come from. It comes from sawdust, a byproduct of sawmills and things like that. Where do you source the chunks and chips and wood splits that you guys sell as well?
Same place.
Yeah.
So we bring in wood from all over the United States. We bring in wood from the Pacific Northwest, up in the Northeast, up from the South and the Southwest, and from the Southeast as well. We get a lot of peaches and apple from the Southeast. Bring up their old growth orchards that are down in the Southeast regions. They go in and they'll dose them out. They load them onto trucks and trailers, and we haul them into Arkansas and process them. Same way at the Northeast. A lot of apple comes out of that area. Great apple orchards up there that are, again, because of urban sprawl. You know, some of these orchards that's been there for many, many, many years are now having to be taken out so a house can be built. New subdivision coming in.
Yeah.
So we have a great relationships with people all around the country that we purchase all that wood from them. Mesquite coming out of Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, through there. So we bring all of it in that way.
And it's all just going to be residual from other people's, for other things that are being made.
Well, so before the pelleting industry per se and the grilling side of it really got popular, what would happen is all that old growth orchards and stuff and woods would all be just bulldozed up and then it'd be burnt. They would sit at the end of the field, they'd light it up and just poof, go up and smoke.
Wow.
No pun intended.
But literally go up and smoke.
Go up and smoke. That's right.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so what we've taken again, something that would have just been, a waste, and taken it, brought it in, made it into another product, going back into another better product for a better end result.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just that though. Like, it's crazy that people are so passionate about the pellets they use, and rightfully so. You want a quality pellet when you're barbecuing, especially if you're cooking like a brisket or something that you have some investment.
You're putting 18 hours in. You want to make sure you're using
yeah.
the best
You don't want to
products.
use something that's not quality, but to know that the pellets themselves were a byproduct of something else that before the advent of pellet grilling were just trash. They were just burned up. They weren't. There was no value to them, and now this whole industry is built off of this innovation in this compressed pellet. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's. Do you have a lot of So there's a lot of residual that happens. Is there a lot of residual from the processes that you do to make like pellets and wood chunks and stuff, or are you kind of the end stage?
We're the end result.
So you have
no
way.
As far as it goes. And here's another little unknown fact about our company, is that we have to dry this product.
Yeah.
Because it comes in green. So the moisture in sawdust is anywhere from 50 to 30% when we get it. So it has to be dried down. So our burners are also biomass fuel burners. So we're utilizing biomass to dry the biomass to be able to manufacture the biomass.
Wow.
So we're about as green can get. The only outsource of power that we purchase is electricity.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. So it's pretty self-sustaining.
It is very self-sustaining.
So
Yeah,
can
we're
you
one of
use any of the stuff that you're using? Do you make charcoal? I'm sure you make charcoal if I read you. Do you?
We do.
Yeah.
We produce a charcoal.
So could you use the stuff that you're using to burn to burn the other stuff to dry the pellets out? Can you turn that into charcoal?
Well,
Is that
that's what lump is.
Yeah.
Lump charcoal is natural wood that has been charred, that's gone through a zero oxygen stage to pull the oxygen off of it to turn it into a char. Take the carbon, release the carbon, and then that's what your lump charcoal is made out of.
And so, because that's kind of cool, because you're kind of killing two birds with one stone there.
That's right.
Where you're drying out the wood and also making charcoal at the same exact time.
Yeah. And if you're
Absolutely.
smoking chicken, you're killing 3 birds.
Yep.
Boo.
Boo.
And so, so you make lump charcoal. Do you make briquettes as well?
We do not make the briquettes.
No briquettes, because I was about to say I don't know how briquettes could go through. Like how do you make a briquettes? But I guess we don't even need to go there.
Well, and see, all of our our charcoal pellet, that is char, which is again all natural charred wood. It goes into it. It's blended in with the oak sawdust, and that's where the charcoal pellet comes from. It's blended with the oak, the mesquite, the hickory, just to whatever char pellet you're looking for.
Awesome.
So you can
So
get
it
some of
gives
that
that-
charcoal flavor in the form of a pellet.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
that consumer, which we were all grew up, on charcoal before wood pellets got as popular as they are now, we all grew up with that charcoal taste. So now you can have a charcoal pellet that gives you that charcoal flavor, and use it in your pellet grill.
There was a brand that came out with 100% charcoal pellets like a year or two ago, and I totally forgot about them until now. I don't think I've seen anybody mention them.
That is that they're still out there.
They are?
They are.
Is
But
there?
that is not a charcoal pellet. That's a torrefied pellet.
What does that mean?
Well, a torrefied pellet is where you change the molecular makeup of that pellet. You pull all the oxygen and carbon off of it, and it's virtually waterproof. So
Really?
that pellet exists. Problem is when you take all of that carbon and oxygen out of that like that, you also take out the flavor. So the flavor profile that you would normally get off of that pellet, because it's made of wood, is no longer there. So you're not getting that charcoal flavor taste,
Wow.
because now you have a torrefied pellet.
Because I would think, hey, 100% charcoal, it would taste just like a charcoal grill.
Yeah.
But that's not how it's happening at all.
But
It
even
is
then,
not.
most people are using charcoal grills and then putting, wood chunks on top of the charcoal, where the charcoal is a heat source and gives you some flavor, but you're getting the smoke and the wood flavor from the wood,
Yeah.
right? So having
Or
a
you
pellet,
can have a Camp Chef grill.
Yeah, exactly.
There you can
go.
have the Camp Chef grill and have the best of both worlds.
Woodwind Pro, little plug for the Woodwind Pro if you
Yeah.
want it.
Well, thanks to our sponsor, Camp Chef. That's actually us. We are Camp Chef.
So I've heard that charcoal burns hotter than wood, right?
Yes.
Why is that? Because it is essentially, you can explain it better than I can, but when you turn it into charcoal, what changes about it to then where it burns hotter?
Well, let's break down the word charcoal. So you char and coal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have char, which comes from wood, and you have coal that is mined out of the ground. That's coal.
Yeah.
So coal has an average BTU of 12,500 to 13,200 BTUs per pound.
Okay.
Wood has an average BTU of 8,000 to 8,300 BTUs per pound, just depending on what species the wood is.
Mm-hmm.
So you come over here and you take char, which is made from wood. So you got 8,000. Let's just use 8,000. Over here you got coal, that's anywhere from 12 to 13. So you got another 13, and that's why the charcoal burns at a hotter rate, because you've got the coal, which is also derives from the ground. It's a mined process, and that's where you get your increased heat from.
Wow, I didn't realize that charcoal was coal and basically biochar.
That's great.
I mean,
I didn't know that. I thought it was 100% biochar and it just burned hotter.
That is absolutely
So
incorrect.
100.
yeah, you are wrong.
So if you had biochar or a piece of wood that turned into char, that would burn at a similar BTU as wood,
It does.
and then char or coal is what burns hotter from the earth, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Wow.
And
we are
coal-
learning all sorts of things today.
Coal is what goes into a what?
into
Stocking for
for Bat Kid.
Yeah, stop.
no, coal
That's
goes into
exactly
what?
right.
Where are we going with that though?
Well, coal is what they generate electricity from coal-fired power plants.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a reason that they use coal is because of the higher BTU content.
Gotcha.
And and then you can, now if you want to go back further, a little step further, that's the reason that torrefication was actually invented, is to be able to manufacture an alternative to coal from wood and make it waterproof, because the torrefication process of the pellet was invented to originally replace coal at the power plants to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
Wow.
This is just
Boom!
boom.
That's crazy.
It's full circle.
Yeah. You mentioned something about moisture content. How important is that in barbecue and specifically in pellets? And then also another question I have is, there's people that live in humid climates.
Humid
climates.
Like call that Arkansas.
Yeah, like Arkansas.
Yeah, you're very aware of it.
I know I've seen some people that like take the pellets out of their hopper because it's humid, and they don't want the condensation inside the hopper to ruin the pellets, things like that. How big of an issue is that?
Well, it can be big issue, and here's the reason why. So a pellet is, when you buy a pellet out of the store,
Yeah.
whether it's manufactured by us or somebody else, is going to be roughly 4% moisture. Okay, you take that out and open that bag, and you expose it to the natural elements, and that's relative humidity, and the humidity happens to be 65% that day, so that means there's 65% moisture in the air, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you got something that's 4% and you got something that's 65%, now you're going to see a natural progression from one to the other, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you're going to see those two differential points, they're even out. So do you want to try to burn a pellet when it's setting at 34% moisture because you started at 4 and 64 and now you're at 30?
No.
No.
Well, I mean,
Because it don't burn well.
and that actually leads me to another question, because a lot of people talk about like soaking their wood and stuff before burning it to create more smoke. People don't do that really with pellets that much.
It's mostly chips.
Yeah,
They'll
chips-
soak
it's,
some
it's
chips.
mainly
and
wood
chunks.
chips.
Yeah.
Why do they do that?
Well, because it does burn longer, it burns slower, and it makes more smoke.
But so does it actually make a big difference? Just filling it full of water.
Well, you don't want to fill it full of water. You just want to soak it for
You
like
don't
an
want to
hour.
waterlog.
Yeah.
You don't want to waterlog it.
You don't.
Otherwise, it
it's
won't
not gonna
burn
burn
at
at
all.
Yeah.
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 So
But-
you got to get it to where it's holding moisture.
Yeah.
And usually about an hour in each one of those, depending on what type of species of wood it is, because oak's
Gotcha.
a lot harder than others. So,
Gotcha.
But it makes more smoke.
Why does it make more smoke? Or does
Because-
it just prolong the smoking process?
Well, it prolongs it, and it does make a little bit more smoke because you're burning it longer, so therefore you get a little bit more smoke out of it.
Mm.
And what people are also, there's a little bit of misinterpretation between smoke and steam. And people see steam coming off your chunks and chips, thinking, "Oh, that's nice smoke." Well, the moisture, that's just really moisture just burning off.
Yeah.
But it looks good.
And maybe you could tell us more about this too, because you're talking about the nice clean smoke. Because there's a huge debate, and a huge thing that's going across barbecue as a whole. Clean smoke versus dirty smoke. What's the science behind that, and does it make a big difference with the clean versus the dirty smoke?
There does.
Yeah.
Smoke science is right now in its infancy stage. This is new.
Yeah.
Smoke science is. There's pellet companies out there that say, "Oh, we're the expert in smoke science." There's companies out there that manufacture grills that says we're going to be the new smoke science experts, but it's still very much in its infancy stage.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a such thing as dirty smoke and clean smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Clean smoke is exactly what you want.
The
Dirty
thin,
smoke.
thin blue smoke.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And dirty smoke, can be caused by a lot of different volatile organic compounds, VOCs, that may be in that particular wood that you don't want it. And that's why it's important that when you are selecting a pellet or a wood chunk or a wood chip, that you come to a company like Camp Chef that understands the quality of wood and importance of not getting a pellet from a company that may not have as stringent quality control program as some, and they could be buying ground up pallets and railroad ties and things like that. Not saying that goes on, because but you just want to make sure that you understand the difference between
Yeah.
Yeah, because you want to make
company
sure
and
that
the
there's
wood you
stuff
buy
that,
from.
that you want your pellets to be as clean as possible
Absolutely.
to give off
Yeah.
that thin blue smoke. Because I've seen, because Mad Scientist Barbecue, he put out a video talking about how blasting it with dirty smoke at the beginning is actually, he's found a little bit beneficial to that. And so that's why I kind of ask, is because I've seen a little bit of a discourse going through and talking about the benefits of like blasting it with dirty smoke right at the beginning to get more flavor and then letting it mellow out over a longer time. But that's kind of why I wanted to ask, because there's a lot of stuff going around about it.
Yeah, it seems like there's a real discussion happening where everyone was talking about clean blue smoke, and now some of the barbecue experts are kind of more apathetic about it, and they're like, well, we'll just start up the grill and put the meat on. We won't sit and wait till it's got the thin blue smoke. Over 16 hours, it's going to favor the cleaner smoke, but it's okay if it's there. So
I mean, I think it's kind of going back to what you said about it being in its infancy, right?
Well, here's what you have. So we're talking about two different things now.
Ooh.
Now you got one's a pellet, one's a chunk and a chip.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there's a whole nother debate going on out there about dirty smoke on chunks and chips. Some people don't want bark on their chunks and their chips because the dirty smoke comes from the bark. Think about, so a tree is growing over a period of 20 years, 40 years, however long. That the exterior of that tree has a bark covering, right?
Yeah.
So everything that's in the wind for 40 years is impregnated into the bark of that tree.
Ooh.
Think about it. That's where the dirty smoke comes from.
Because of the impregnation.
Because of
dirty
all
smoke.
what VOCs, volatile organic compounds. So the clean smoke is from the exterior of the wood. The dirty smoke is from the exterior of the wood.
Yeah, the clean is from the interior, dirty is from the exterior.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
The dirty smoke will give you the most flavor. There's no doubt about it. I will agree 100% when you're looking for flavor of what that true smoke flavor that you're going to get it from the bark. You're not going to get it from the interior of that tree. You're going to get it from the bark.
Is there any bark that goes into pellets?
None.
Is that maybe why people say pellets don't give them as deep of a smoky flavor as they do off of like a wood split?
That is 100% correct.
Really? It's because there's no bark in there.
There's no bark in it. Wow. Because people don't like the ash.
Yeah.
But the higher the ash content, the more smoke flavor you're going to get. That's proven.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes, but people are going to have to clean their pellet stoves out more often. And they
Because
don't
bark
like to do that.
bark creates more ash than
Yes.
the
Well, it's all
interior.
dirt. It's sand in it. Think about how much sand and dirt is in the air. So if you grind that bark up, you're putting the dirt and the sand right into that pellet,
Yep.
and that's what you burn. And ash is sand and dirt.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, because like with the Woodwind Pro, don't want to harp on it too much, but like where you're able to put that chunk and charcoal and stuff in there, that's with the bark and everything on it. That's kind of what's giving it more of that smoke flavor.
That's right.
Is instead of just going pure pellet, because I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the benefits that people like about pellets in a stove is that it burns very clean. There's almost no smoke to it, right? And so,
Now you're talking about a pellet stove?
Pellet stove, yes.
Pellet stove, okay.
Yes, pellet stove.
Yeah, for heat they like it because it's efficient, burns hot, not as much smoke.
Yeah.
All of that.
But when it comes to barbecue, it seems like you would want the pellets to produce more smoke.
Right.
In a way. And so that's because you're definitely getting more smoke than if you were burning, say, gas.
Oh, for sure.
And that's probably what's flavoring the meat on just purely a pellet grill, which you can still get a good flavor. There's still some smoke, just far less.
Well, but that's the beauty of the Camp Chef grill, where it's got the smoke settings on it. So you can take and change that smoke setting to get a higher or lesser amount of smoke that you want just by taking and bringing that fire down and having it restart again. Because restarting is where you get your smoke from. So you're getting the best of both worlds with it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there you go.
Again.
Thanks, Camp Chef, for sponsoring this video. We really appreciate it. Thanks for paying our salary.
Well, I also think that you get the best of both worlds where the pellets are burning clean, and then in that smoke box, it's not burning as clean. So you're getting a healthy mix of dirty and clean smoke as it's burning in that combustion process that gives you more flavor than you would just off of a pellet.
Absolutely.
We've had people, depending on how you use that smoke box, we've had people say, I think this is right up there with my offset. Like I'm getting the same level of smoke. And I think it partly has to do with the, and I don't know if it was even intentional when we created it, but that smoke box sometimes doesn't burn as efficiently as it would if it was in a offset sitting right on top of the coals. And so you get kind of this magical mixture of dirty smoke and clean smoke that really it gives a nice flavor. So
well, I'm going to just say that I think they engineered it that way. That's how sharp those guys are downstairs.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Okay, going back to pellets. When people are looking for, or if you want to find the best pellets, what should you look for in the store? What's one thing you can look for on the bag that can tell you what a good pellet is?
Well, first of all, it's not in the outside of the bag that you're looking for. You're looking for what's inside.
On the outside, you're looking for Papa's or Camp Chef.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but or what can people be on the lookout for when they're trying to find the best pellet possible?
100% all natural. That's number one.
Gotcha.
Look at 100% all natural. No additives, no binders put into it. The other part of that you want to look at is you want to look at what type of wood it's being manufactured from. For years, alder was the primary base wood for grilling pellets. Alder is technically not a hardwood. It's actually falls into a kind of a middle class hardwood softwood family. If you want the best pellet out there, make sure you get one that's made with red and white oak as the base wood, with your other species, fruitwood species, then blended into it. That's what you're looking for. But you can't tell that from the outside of a bag. You have to be able to look into that bag, see the pellet. Now, I am not in any way, shape, or form telling everybody to go to the store, stick their finger into the bag, because
rip it open and see what they can find in there.
First of all, call the clerk. Have them do it. But that's what you want to look at. You want that pellet to be a nice tan flavor or color. You want to, depending on the species. If you're looking for a cherry, you want a nice little cherry tint to that wood. If you're looking for a pecan, you're going to have kind of a richer, darker, brownish pecan to it. If you're going to mesquite, you're going to have a brownish red in there that looks like mesquite wood and what have you. That's what you want to look for. You want to look for the length of the pellet, the diameter, what's its durability. Is there a lot of fines in the bag? If there's a lot of fines in the bag, that's
fines like sawdust.
It's like sawdust, yeah. That tells me that the durability of that pellet isn't very good. They may not have had the correct compression ratio on their dies and their rolls, and therefore by the time you get it home, you may be buying a half a pound of sawdust in that 20-pound bag of pellets.
And so you were talking about the length and the diameter. What's the right answer to how long and how long or big around it should be?
Oh, sure. Well, you want to try to get a quarter to 3/16 pellet. That's ideal for grilling pellets.
Gotcha.
Because that small auger that's in a grill, it fits them in there well. So that diameter works perfect.
Because if they're in there in the auger, they're too big, they're going to break down, creating more sawdust while they're in there.
Yeah.
And
or it can clog things up.
Clog up the auger.
Clogging up.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
Lengthwise, we try to hit that 1/2 to 3/4 inch because that's kind of the sweet spot. You get them any shorter than that 1/2 inch, into that 3/8, 7/16 range. That's a little bit too short. You're getting too much feed going into your auger at times. So we like to hit that 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch range, and it works real good.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's lengthwise, and that's where you're going to get the best burn.
Awesome.
That's good to know. Here's a personal question for you. You've been in this industry for a long time. If we were to prepare barbecue for you, could you tell us what wood it was smoked on? Is there that big of a difference between the species?
There's two woods that I can specifically identify. One is hickory and one is mesquite.
Okay.
Everything in between, it's a crapshoot. that's it.
Yeah.
But hickory has a distinct smoke flavor.
Yeah.
Mesquite has a distinct smoke flavor.
Yeah.
Everything, I hear, I don't have that delicate a palate, and I'm around a lot of these master barbecue chefs and pit masters and so forth, and they taste the apple and the cherry and that little hint of pecan in there and so forth, and man, I'd love to be able to one day be able to grab that taste, but I just taste the hickory.
Hey, like a wood sommelier, just like,
That's right.
This is a fine cherry. Well, because one thing I've noticed in my personal barbecuing is when you're using a cherry wood pellet or just wood chunk, it makes the meat more red.
Yeah, it says they say the cherry's the best for like a smoke ring.
Yes.
So why is that? What makes cherry wood turn meat like that ruby red?
It's the dye in the wood.
Like dye, like when you say dye, it's not like
and it's natural.
Yeah.
It's
just
color
the color
of
of the wood.
Yeah.
And it
It's
can
a natural
transfer
dye
through
that
smoke.
That tree manufactures and makes itself. And it's already a red tint, so it just puts that nice smoke ring in there, better than any other wood there is.
And it can do it through smoke. I just find that very interesting, and how can do that just based on the color of the tree, how it affects the smoke.
Well, if you're burning aspen, you're getting a different color smoke. If you burn a birch, you're getting a different colored smoke. If you're burning ash or pine, you get a little different colored smoke. Each one of those wood has a very distinct smoke look to it. Especially the birch. Birch is virtually white.
Yeah.
So
birch isn't good for barbecue though, right?
it is not. No, no, but maple is.
Maple is?
Yeah,
Maple.
maple's great. You know, because it puts that little hint of sugar in there.
You get a
sugar
little maple
acid.
syrupy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love making wood pellets with maple.
I have a video of just some pellets being made, and I kind of want you to walk us through each of these little pieces. I'd love to hear your commentary. It's just a how it's made video, just talking about the pellets as a whole. I just love to get your thoughts on it and to kind of and little insights that you can give there.
That was a good video, by the way. I've seen this one.
This one?
Yeah.
Very good.
Do all pellet mills look like they were out of Terminator?
Every one of them. They're awesome.
The way they lit
awesome.
that was pretty.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tim
so
the Tool Man Taylor ain't got anything on us.
so is this what it looks like when all of the wood comes to your plant?
That's correct.
And so
That's chips more than sawdust, but
that's one of the
one of the forms.
One of the forms.
And
then
here and what they're doing here is they're putting that into a self feeder.
Okay.
So that feeder has a great big chain in the bottom of it, and it's going to carry that wood up there to an auger that's going to then carry it over to the dryer.
Gotcha.
And that's the dryer you see right there.
And so because you
it's
said it comes
rotating.
in, it's like it's still green, so like that 30% moisture, you gotta take 20% of the moisture out of it.
That's correct. We want to make sure that we get that down to about 9 to 10% is where we process it.
Gotcha. And so if they come in a little bit bigger, I think they're showing there you have to kind of refine it even more.
That's right. We go through a hammer mill, so that takes that wood and the hammer mill has a screen in it, and so that wood that's maybe 1/2 to 2 inches in length is then all 100% 1/4 inch. So that's the longest piece that we'll process.
So is that what's happening here?
That's a live bottom bin that is now metering the sawdust before it goes into that pellet mill that you see right there. Those 3 pellet mills in a row.
Yeah. So it's making sure there's not too much sawdust going in there. Gotcha.
Consistency is everything in pelleting.
Yeah.
Whether it starts at the front end or the back end, consistency in feed, consistency in moisture, consistency in everything.
So what is the premier makeup of a pellet, and how much sawdust, how much actual wood stuff or wood pieces in there?
Well, it's all wood.
Well, yeah. But like between sawdust and like the what is it? The consistency?
Is it all sawdust, or do you have variations in the?
Oh no, it's all 1/4 inch minus.
Okay.
Oh, gotcha.
But when it is pelleted, it is all one consistent size
Okay.
and at a consistent moisture.
Okay.
Earlier,
And here, what they're taking, they were just moisture. They were checking moisture on that sawdust to make sure it was ready to go into the pellet mill.
Gotcha. And so these are the
That's the die.
The die and the
rolls that you're
roller.
seeing. That's a zero clearance, meaning that the zero clearance.
it's
steel against steel.
Yeah.
And that sawdust is forced in between it.
Look how fast that's going.
That's 800 RPMs.
Whew.
That's what that runs.
That's a lot. That gotta take a lot to.
There's 3,300 holes in one of those dies, turning at 800 RPM.
so how many pellets can you make a day? How many pounds of pellets do you guys make?
Well, like our mills, our mills have so many 100 horsepower, and so depending on the size of the mills and the horsepower of the mills determines how much production you can turn out. There's no magic wand or a knob that says we're going to turn out 2 ton or we're going to send out 100. It is all one, meaning you're going to turn out 2 to 4 ton an hour every hour.
Wow.
Period.
Jeez.
No in between.
2 to 4 tons is a lot of pellets.
Well, not really. When you're in high demand, you're wishing you had a lot
Well,
more pellet mills.
Yeah, we like our barbecue, so we're going through it. But
And here, so what they were doing there, that was screening out all the excess.
That was screening the fines off of the pellets before it goes in the bags.
Gotcha.
So that is one of the things that we are really, really conscious of is our pellets are screened 3 times before they go into the bag. We make sure that pellet, what that consumer is getting, is 100% pellet, and they're not getting sawdust. Because consumers hate sawdust. They just like pellets.
Yes, and so the sawdust, how big of an issue is sawdust in pelleting and just pellet grilling in general?
That's everybody's biggest complaint is the fines in the pellets.
Yeah.
And let me tell you where that starts. Because it doesn't start at the pellet plant, and I don't care who manufactures that pellet.
Yeah.
It starts at the retail level and then goes to the consumer. And I am guilty of it myself. I'll go and pick up a 20-pound bag of wood pellets. I throw it over my shoulder, and then I slap it on the grill.
Chuck it
beside
on
the grill.
and throwing it around.
What did I just do? I just made these suckers here, and I'm making them back into sawdust again.
So a lot of the sawdust that happens in the bag isn't from the manufacturing process because it's sifted out.
That's right.
That comes from the logistics
handling
of
of
getting it to the retailer.
Loading it on the truck driving it across
Every
the country
time those
to the
pellets
DC.
rub against each other, they rub off some sawdust.
That's right.
Because obviously there's going to be some, like you were saying earlier, like you want to make sure that the compaction's there, and that's one that you can tell if it's a little bit better or not of a pellet. But if you're seeing all these different pellets in the same store from a bunch of different companies having a bunch of sawdust at the bottom of a bag, that's telling you that's probably not the manufacturer's fault.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
What sucks is the manufacturer is the one that gets the brunt of the criticism, though.
100% of the time.
Everybody says, don't use these pellets, it's full sawdust and all of this, but...
That's right.
But
I
guess...
my pellets are wet. Well, our plant, we pelletize wet pellets. That's exactly what we do. That's
you got it. Nice job.
Yeah.
Yep, you got us.
No, when they come out of the mill, they're probably the most perfect pellet you've ever seen.
They are. They're fresh.
And it's all
they're
downhill
hot.
from there.
They are about 140 to 160 degrees when they come out of the. And then they go across the cooler,
Yeah.
and we cool them down to ambient temperature. And
You ever
then-
put a brisket just right on top of them?
Oh, you could. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That'd be clean. But and going back to that sawdust conversation here, this guy, we found this video. Kate found this video.
He's sifting his pellets as he puts them in the hopper. Is that something you would recommend doing?
You can, but a good pellet manufacturer and a bag of pellets that's got a good durability factor to them.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to do that. And again, if a pellet's been consumers don't have always room to store their heating pellets inside the building or in a temperature controlled warehouse, so they sit outside.
Yeah.
Well, here we are taking pellets that is compressed wood that has the only binder is the natural lignin in the wood that we compressed it to, and setting it outside in the elements for anywhere from 2 months to 6 months, selling it to the consumer, and they're taking it home. They're offloading it off their truck, whether it's be a pallet or by a bag, putting it into a pile, picking it back up, carrying it into their stoves. Well, it's already absorbed a lot of moisture because it's been sitting outside.
Yeah.
It was a 4% moisture when it started. Now it's it could be a 10, 12%, 15% moisture.
Yeah.
It comes apart. It breaks apart. So when it does that, then you can take and screen and salvage the pellets that you have. But
Gotcha.
that was the only reason you'd ever need to do that.
It's probably more of a grill question than it is a pellet question at that point because, the sawdust isn't going to affect the cook. It's not going to affect the taste or anything. I mean, that's what a pellet is.
Yep.
But if you get too much sawdust down there, you're going to get compaction in your auger. You're going to get it. It's not
blocking the intake tube.
Yeah.
And
In fact, that happened with my grill. I went to go grill and my pellets wouldn't feed the auger, and it's because I had too much sawdust at the bottom. And as the auger turned, it wasn't moving the sawdust, but it was preventing pellets from going down into the auger.
It was bridging it over
yeah.
the top.
Yeah. So there's just nothing going through.
And I don't suppose you're going to take any responsibility for leaving the pellets in the hopper.
Oh,
You
no,
really
no,
should
no.
have taken them out.
Yeah, no, it was the pellets.
That's what I thought.
Jeez, what are they doing over there at Fiber Energy?
Well, here's the thing: it's so dry here that we don't remove the. I leave the pellets in my hopper, but that's
I've
probably
only
the bad
been here a
thing.
short time, and I assure you, you can just dry outside here. I don't know why you guys even use towels when you take a shower. The climate
you get
here
off the
is-
plane, you get
There's
into
no
Utah,
humidity.
instantly lips just chap. It's just whoop, instantly. So
I haven't
dry here.
sweat since I've been here. This is awesome.
Yeah, it is dry.
I mean, it's pretty nice temperatures too. But so, what is the? Okay, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. And what is the best way to keep the pellets in the best condition from the store? What storage and everything? What would you recommend?
The best way is just buy yourself a 5-gallon bucket with a lid. Take and drop that 20-pound bag in it, because the 20-pound bag fits in a 5-gallon bucket perfectly. Put the lid on it. Just set it inside your back porch, where it's temperature controlled, climate controlled, and just leave it in there when you're not in use. When you're cooked, then pour it in there and it'll be great. But if you store them that way, they'll last a lot longer.
Yeah. I mean, it's airtight. When you open up a bag of pellets,
Yeah.
rip it open, don't use all of it, and then
that's not true. They're not. The bags aren't airtight. So the bags are perforated around the front, but they have pin needle size holes in them. But you have to, when you fill that bag, you have to let that bag relieve itself of air trapped inside. So that's what them holes are for. And that's what people don't realize, that those bags, on the face of the bags in the back, have a little small perforation area in them. So they think the bags are waterproof. They are not waterproof.
and so storing them in the bags is probably not the best idea.
Yeah. Well, if you put them in a 5-gallon bucket, you can leave them in
Then
the bag and
you're
not
good.
worry
You can
about
put
it.
the lid on top, and that's airtight.
Yep, and that's airtight.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because many times what happens is, if you get, a guy that's an avid griller, you'll have 5 or 6 buckets sitting there with different species in it, and if you don't leave it in the bag or mark it on the top of it, you're not going to know what species you got in there.
That's true.
And then when you get liquored up, you never know what's going to.
Wait, no one gets liquored up while barbecuing. That never happens.
Never.
I don't think that's happened once. Okay. So we had a couple. So I put it out a little feeler into the community to see saying that we're going to have this conversation, and people were wondering specifically if they were 100% wood, which I think
We covered.
we covered that, and then that when it comes to the blends, so you could pretty much say the majority of pellets being made are a blend, right?
They are.
And it's mainly just importing a little bit of whatever the main wood is in there. So when you have a hickory pellet, how much of that pellet is made out of hickory, and how much of that is made up of the other blend? The oak, the white oak, is that what you're saying?
Red and white oak.
Red,
yes.
white oak, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how much of that is hickory and how much of that is oak?
That is proprietary information.
Great. Don't ask him. It's not.
There's a lot of different pellet manufacturers out there, and there's a lot of different pellets on the market that are manufactured by other people.
Yeah.
And each one of them have their own blends.
Gotcha.
So there's no two really pellet companies that are alike with the same amount of
Proportions,
fruitwood species in there. And like I said, some use a red and white oak, some will use a white oak and straight red oak, some will use an alder.
Gotcha.
And
tell me if this is proprietary as well, because obviously don't want to be spilling no secrets. But like in the competition blend and everything, do you only use red and white oak for all of them? Is that going to be in every single pellet that you guys make?
Yes, unless you specifically want a maple and then a fruitwood blend.
Gotcha.
Per se.
So maple would be the other base wood you would use?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. There's a question right here that I wanted to ask. From the fuel side of things, what trends are you seeing in the barbecue industry?
Oh, wow. Well, right now the consumer is looking for the next big thing.
Yeah.
Grilling, and again, I've used this term just earlier, is still in its infancy stage.
Mm-hmm.
Not grilling overall, but pellet grilling.
Yeah.
They haven't been around that long.
Mm-mm.
And when you look at the innovation that has taken place over the last 4 or 5 years in pellet grills, I mean, it took years to make that innovation happen. Once the Traeger patent ran out, and other people started to get into this business and develop pellet grills, what a difference that made. And innovation really started to happen. Mm. And now people are familiar with, they're finding out that the pellet grill is easy to use. Women love pellet grills. I mean, women are better pellet grillers than men are.
Yeah.
I assure you.
Yeah.
Because men, we go out, we start the pellet grill, we pop a cool one, and next thing you know, we're off doing something else.
Yep.
Women,
we're mowing our lawns. And
that's right, exactly right.
Yeah, we're doing all sorts of yard work.
Women stick right with it. So they're better grillers. They're better smokers. So now the trend is, what we're seeing is that this pellet grill thing is starting to go towards more of the women and the women grillers, and not so much the man. So,
I mean, and I've seen that a lot. But there's a lot of really great people on social media, especially because that's where I'm at. Because we have a couple of really great people, like Married to Barbecue, for example. Like she does an incredible job, and I think she's also inspiring tons of other people to like get into it as well and stuff. I think you're definitely definitely right. Just inspiring way more women to get into it too, because to me traditionally grilling's been a man's game. You go out there, you have your fire, you're cooking over fire. But
Yeah.
I think
Caveman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah.
right.
It's primal. But
There is something primal about it. Yeah.
So you think about too, one of the things that my wife always gripes about is here I am cooking over a hot stove. Well, honey, get out of the kitchen. Let's go out in the backyard. Let's grill over a hot grill.
Yeah.
That's what
cook
I
over a
want
hot
to do.
fire.
And when
There
it's a
you are.
pellet grill, just
That's
throw
right.
it in and come sit and chat with me. We'll just
Absolutely.
hang out.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. COVID was great for
goodness.
bringing the families together and outdoor grilling and outdoor category and all, as a whole. And the outdoor
100%.
category is huge now.
Yeah, there was an insane amount of growth in the outdoor industry during COVID, because it forced people to go outside, not because a lot of the people are interacting with each other when you're going outside, or especially in our space when you're cooking at home, because a lot of the restaurants are closed. You still want that barbecue, and you're going to learn a lot through doing that.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Not only that, but a lot of people weren't commuting anymore, so they had an extra hour or two in their day.
Yep.
And since they weren't commuting, they had a little bit more money in their pocket just from gas and things like that. So, yeah, it was huge. Yeah, that whole time was a huge boost to the industry.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go back to the to these community questions. There's one that someone asked where talking about the light versus dark wood doesn't make a difference. I think obviously that's kind of a loaded question.
On that question, are they talking about like the difference between the heartwood and the other wood within a log, or is there a difference on that?
Well, what, you mean the center, meaning the heart of the
heartwood,
wood?
yeah.
No, that your color's going to be the same.
It's pretty much just the outside the bark versus the
Well,
inside.
Well, what they may be asking is if it's a mesquite pellet, or it's a pecan pellet, or it's a cherry pellet. Those three are very dark.
Yeah.
We're oak. One of the things that used to be a real determining factor whether the pellet was any good or not in heating before grilling got really popular was the color of the heating pellet. If the heating pellet was dark, people wouldn't want it because they think it was a bad pellet. If it was a really nice, pretty light tan, they say, "Oh, this is the best of the best." It don't make any difference.
So to the answer to the question, no.
No.
Light versus dark doesn't mean a thing.
It
the
doesn't
only
mean
difference is
nothing.
going to be the type of the wood that you're using.
That's exactly correct. Yeah.
Great. Because that question did kind of confuse me. Well, but I'm glad I asked because you had way more insight on that. Than
Well,
I had.
if they make orange pellets out of orange trees,
Yeah.
and they have an orange tint to them.
Really?
Almond pellets off the almond trees, almond wood, that's been taken out.
And those are for
It's a very light color.
almonds you can barbecue with, right?
Oh yeah, they're great. Yeah.
Or can you
Almond wood.
barbecue with orange
Yeah.
pellets?
Oh, absolutely. The problem is getting enough orange wood.
I guess
Yeah.
that's true.
I mean, you think we'd be going to Florida just whipping everybody's trees out of the ground?
Yeah.
They gotta have some more
That's
wood.
interesting. I do kind of want to try that in orange wood. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, because you have your core. You mentioned them earlier: apple, peach, hickory, mesquite. The ones that we've all mentioned.
Because that's what we have available to us here.
Yeah.
That's
So what trees would you want to avoid? Is it mostly softwood trees that you want to avoid?
oh yeah,
Hardwoods are good to smoke with.
hardwoods are great to cook with and what
And
have you.
and is that from a sciencey standpoint, or is that just softwoods don't have the same flavor profile? They maybe they're a little bitter, or
Well, and they burn faster.
they burn faster.
They
Softwood
burn
burns faster,
Absolutely. So your fire.
so they're not
isn't-
optimal.
That's correct. There's a lot of great safety, tasting softwoods out there that are classified as a softwood. You got to look in your hardwood softwood classification to
Yeah.
see what they are. But yeah, there's a lot of good softwoods out there. They just burn faster.
And so they're not as efficient.
Right.
You have to have a lot more pellets. 20-pound
Yeah.
bag probably wouldn't get you very far.
There could be all these tasty woods out there that we don't even know about.
Well, we're doing some stuff right now with coffee residuals.
Yeah.
Really?
And we blend that in there and we'll make a coffee pellet and they're great.
Really?
Interesting.
Got a little higher BTU to them. The flavor's good. You get a little flavor profile of coffee into it. One of the other big things that we've been doing for several years, we're the innovator of this particular product, is the spice pellet.
Yeah.
So we take and blend spices with the sawdust before it goes into the pellet mill and it's blended right into it.
Do you notice a big difference in flavor with those?
There is no flavor difference.
Really?
I just want to make that clear right now.
So if you put garlic and onion and all sorts of stuff in there, it doesn't make a difference.
You want garlic, onion, paprika, any of that.
I bet
It's just a big marketing play.
Here's the bonus, is the smell.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you smell like. Yeah, I mean, while you're grilling, you the captain.
Yeah.
I mean, you the man, because all the neighbors from a block away, each way, is going to be at your house. Want to know what you're
Yeah.
doing.
You're just talking about that, about invading people's nostrils.
I mentioned this last time where sometimes I'll take some of the spice that I'm using and put it in the smoke box on top of the wood. It smells so good.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I'm
absolutely.
sure like even that spiced pellet, like that's got to do something for at least like your mentals, because you're like, oh man, this is smelling better than anything else I've ever.
But it doesn't change the flavor.
Doesn't change the flavor.
Really, that's interesting.
Wow.
I'd like to tell you it did, but it doesn't.
But the coffee one does change the flavor a little
Yes. Yeah. You'll get some out of that. Get a
wonder
flavor
why.
profile out of that coffee.
That's
It's pretty sweet. And I think once we get that perfected and what have you, I think it's going to be a great another alternative for people, especially up in the Pacific Northwest where they drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
Seattle might actually be getting into more barbecue once that coffee flavored one comes out.
Yep.
Yeah.
They'll be leaving Starbucks headed right to the grill.
Yeah.
All right.
Pumpkin
yeah.
spice pellets, would that work?
Ooh, maybe.
yes, absolutely.
We could try getting on that.
Yeah. Pumpkin spice pellets.
Do a
We've
pumpkin
tried
spice
a lot
turkey.
of different spices.
Yeah?
Yes, we have.
What's
Yeah.
the worst spice that you've tried?
I think it was all onion.
All onion.
All
Yeah,
onion.
it was pretty strong.
Oh, I bet.
and my gosh, our bourbon pellets made from 100% bourbon staves.
Yeah.
Oh my, yeah, we make everybody in there wear a mask because they're all liquored up by the time we get done making those puppies just from smelling it all day.
Yeah.
That's a cool, because I've seen a couple of pellets like that as well.
Yes.
And then one more wood I wanted to talk about before I move on is plum wood. I've seen a big push towards plum wood lately.
Yes.
And where that's been kind of a not as big wood, is it just because of the availability? Is that why it hasn't been
Is it
as
just marketing
widespread?
or is it really tastes good?
No, it's good wood.
Yeah.
It burns very good, has a great flavor profile to it. The problem is that there's only so much plum available.
Mm.
So, it's going to be a very select market that you're going to see it in.
Yeah.
Like in the Midwest where I'm at, or Mid-South where I am, there you won't find plum pellets.
Yeah.
Huh.
But you get up in this area and the Northwest and what have you, and Canada or Minnesota up through that area,
Yeah.
you'll see the plum pellets.
Yeah, because I mean, Naughty Wood Barbecue,
Yes,
because I think they were one. They probably were the one that I've seen
That's correct.
bring the plum out to the masses as much. They
Well, it's
probably
interesting
have
because the history of them, and I don't want to go too far into them, but it started because they had an almond and plum orchards.
that's correct.
And so they basically just said, we're going to take, they were probably sending off their wood to whatever, and they were just like, let's just bring it in-house. So they're actually making it off of the
off of their
byproduct
own.
That's their
main
own
core.
orchards.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that was old growth trees that they. I know the guys, so
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that was old growth trees that they're doing. So they're doing better off their pellets than they were their trees.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, like all the big barbecue influencers, they swear by them.
Yep.
They think they're awesome.
Well,
But
I think
yeah.
there's a tremendous amount of loyalty when you get into the grilling pellet and the heating pellet. There's some real loyalty to from that consumer to the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, because like why is that breed so much loyalty?
My guess as a marketer would be, I don't think the consumer understands pellets. And so when they find a pellet that works and gives them a good response, like a good output, and it tastes great and it functions in their grill, then they just want more of that. They just feel like,
They
I
what
found
worked.
my pellet. This is the pellet I like to use. Because once they start looking at other brands, they start looking at other things, then it opens up the whole, what am I getting into again?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
I think you're spot on,
yeah.
100%. I do.
So it's kind of like spices. Like if you were to go buy onion powder, you could buy onion powder from any brand,
Yeah.
right? But if you found, this poultry rub that you really love, you don't know what the mixture is in there.
Yeah.
And you don't know if you'll like the next guy's poultry rub. And
You
so
you don't want to risk it. It's the same reason that
Yeah.
you go to the restaurant, order the same thing every time. You
you
don't
go,
want
this
to
is
risk
what I
it.
like. And so I just keep coming back
Yeah.
to it, which breeds some loyalty and
And
people
so
like
it's
what
just
they like. So
especially in barbecue where it takes such a long time to make one dish.
yeah.
Yes.
One thing. But
Well,
and if that pellet performs well in their appliance,
Like, great.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
it's also one of those things where people seem to be buying it in bulk. They'll buy 4 or 5 bags of it
Oh
at
my
a time.
god!
Yes.
I see people on Reddit literally buying
Pallets of it.
pallets of
Yes.
pellets, which is not a smart idea unless you're going to go put them into a 5-gallon bucket, right?
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got a heck of a deal, and that's going to take up a lot of room in your garage. But I hope your garage is dry.
Yeah. Well, Steve, we appreciate this conversation. I learned a ton today.
Yeah.
Repeat for everyone where people can find you and what your company does.
Name of our company is Fiber Energy Products. Our grilling, our pellet grill and pellet biomass fuels are under Papa's brand grilling products.
So that's
That's what you'll see in the grocery store.
That's what you'll
Great.
see in the grocery store. That's correct on the grilling side.
Okay.
On the heating, animal bedding side, you're going to see Fiber Energy Products.
awesome.
Okay.
Thank you for having us, and
Of course.
man, it's been a pleasure. It's great
Yeah,
talking
this
to you
is
guys.
great.
Awesome. Hey, thanks. And then thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. I don't know how to end these. How do you end them?
I think we just cut.